Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of an off the scale video. We have all three teachers in the same city for the first time. We got Elias over there, Taylor
Hello.
over here, and yours truly. All right, guys, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell me how you got into music.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Elias. Like you all know, I started my musical career back in Finland in the third grade. I studied classical guitar at the conservatory. My sister and mother both played classical piano. I wanted to do something different, so I chose the guitar. Then at some point, I wanted to play the kind of music that I was actually listening to, which was the classic rock like Pink Floyd and that kind of stuff. So I started taking electric guitar lessons also on the side. So I was studying two guitars at the same time. And fast forward to many years at Berkeley, I gravitated towards classical guitar and graduated with that. And now I'm here with Andy and Taylor.
Awesome. Yeah, I basically as a kid got super hooked on guitar. It just always fascinated me. My parents are visual artists, and they had a lot of music playing in the house, and we would go out to like see artwork, and there'd usually be live music and that kind of thing. So I kind of got hooked on that too. And I remember they would tell me like when I was really, really little, there would be like someone with a guitar, and I would just like beeline for them. I was just like, what's that? Like, what's this weird shaped thing? I want to know. And as I got a little bit older, they had a DVD of Eric Clapton at Madison Square Garden, I think in like 1995 or something. And I watched that on repeat constantly to the point where I just was so obsessed, and I was trying to like draw like what his fingers were doing and like figure out like what is he doing? How does he do that? How does he get those sounds? So from there, I had to get a guitar. And I got a guitar and basically did a little bit of lessons, but didn't really stick with them. I had a guitar teacher that I worked with who ended up moving away. So I basically became self-taught up through high school. And through high school, I got a little more serious. And then I went to a community college that had a really good music program and started to take music lessons with teachers there and study music theory. Classical music theory to start, and basically worked my way through that program, ended up transferring to Berkeley, and just really like going for it and moving out here, and just having a blast with the music journey. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So I grew up in a very musical household. My parents are big music fans. My mom's into disco, my dad's into smooth jazz. So I heard all those things, whether it be in the car or at home. My dad played a little guitar. My mom played a little bit of piano. My uncle played guitar. Everybody around me in school were starting to play guitar. So around age 13, I got into it too, just because I just wanted to try it. Everybody was doing it. I thought it was like, oh, it's the coolest thing since drugs. But my mom enrolled me in classical guitar lessons at first, and sorry, dude, that kind of bored me. I just wanted to play all the radio songs that I knew and loved. So I just wanted to learn chords. So that's what I did for a bit, but I wasn't really motivated to practice until around age 14. I visited my uncle and my aunt in San Francisco. They're professional musicians, and they were like, here's a video of Steve Vai at the Astoria in London. And I saw him come out, play all these crazy things on the track Shy Boy. That was the first one. And I was just like, what the hell is going on here? And I like that. It was that moment where I knew I wanted it to be that. And I want to do that for the rest of my life. And shortly after that, I got into Dream Theater. So as you all know, Steve Vai, Petrucci, John Mayong, and Mike Portnoy, they all went to Berkeley. So at like age 14, 15, I knew one day I wanted to get into Berkeley. So fast forward some years later, I got into Berkeley and graduated from there. That's how I met these two, and the rest is history. Yeah, so that's how we got into music. Now I'm gonna need your phone for the questions.
What we got?
All right, first question. I guess, Elias, this is for you.
Sure.
Should I learn to read standard notation before starting classical guitar lessons?
Yes. Most of the pieces in classical are going to be in standard notation. So knowing that will help you a ton. There are some tabs out there, but usually that's controversial in the classical space. So learn your normal notation, please.
Well, you can teach that too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, there you go. You can learn with him too.
Yeah.
Before as a precursor to learning classical.
Yeah.
All right, next question. I'm interested in finger picking, classical style. Any tips for better technique?
There's this really good book called the Giuliani Studies. It's 120 exercises on the right hand. Check that out. That's really good. Just take it slow. You can take a lesson with me. I'll help you with your right hand. Boom.
All right. Thank you. Next question. How do I clean up my string skipping? I guess that's for me. I would work on my muting technique first, both left and right hand muting, because if you don't have that down, you might get some notes here and there, but it's mostly going to be noise because of the string skip. And this is why I don't recommend this technique to beginners and intermediate players. I want you to get like that solid muting base first, and like a solid right hand technique to minimize noise. Also, take it slow. As with everything, you're probably going to get sick of me saying this. Take it slow. All right. Next one is, I can play fast in a position, but not jumping up and down the neck. Any advice?
That's also you.
I guess that's me. All right. All the shreddy stuff, man. Quick little anecdote. When I was a teenager, my original guitar teacher, when I first studied with him, he showed me the 7 major modes in C all over the neck. And that was the first meeting. He was like, all right, memorize all of these and don't come back until you memorize all of these. So it sounds pretty rough, right? But that's exactly what I did. Because I was like, I had that Steve Vai and Dream Theater image in my head. I'm like, well, they probably know this. Yeah. So I worked on it, man. So until today, I thank that moment for me being kind of fluent around the neck. And so that's how I manage to play fast all around the neck. It's just because I know all the modes in all keys in all over the neck. And you could use techniques, of course, like slides, but I think that'll help you bridge positions not only vertically, but also horizontally. Also, take it slow. Sorry, can you open this?
Let's see what we got.
All right, next one. How do I make chords? Any one of us.
Stack the notes.
Pretty much. So chords come out of scales. So when you look up chord on Google. No, get one of those charts and put it. No, but to build chords, really understanding the function of each note in that chord helps a lot, and that all comes from scales. So if you learn like a major scale, you can basically build all the chords that belong to that major key that will fit within that scale. And the nice thing about that is then you can play over those chords with that scale, and since they're derived from the same thing, it's all going to work together. So basically taking from that scale, you like if you're building off of the first note in that scale, you're going to take certain notes out of that scale to build that first chord, and that basically happens from each note inside that scale. So once you know your scales, you basically have all the material you need to build whatever chords you want out of that scale.
Listen, we can have this conversation all day long. There's a lot to this, right? So it's like, if you use different scales, you can build different chords according to that scale's flavor, isn't it? So I think theoretically, my teacher told me years ago that 80% of music basically it's scales. You know, it's like ammo. But yeah, just take your scale, root, third, and fifth. That's it. If you're feeling expensive, put the seventh. Right? How does it work for classical?
It's the same.
Oh, it's the same.
Pretty much.
But less seventh chords.
Yeah,
right?
less 7 chords.
Yeah,
Unless
but
you're-
you guys use the 5 dominant 7 too.
Yeah, unless you're playing like Latin American style, there's more of the 7th chords, but mostly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all the same. Theory, it's all the same.
Yeah. Theory, it's all the same.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. How do I get better at sweeping?
That's also you.
It's me. Sorry. The guy in the black shirt with the long hair. That's me. Hey, Elias had long hair when I met him, all right?
Yeah.
So shut up.
Not anymore.
Take it slow. I'm not kidding. If you want to play fast, you got to play slow first. Not only does it help with muscle memory, which is a very important thing when you're playing fast, but it also helps you get each note just right. You know, I want, if I'm learning something difficult, say sweep picking, I want to play each note to the best that I can before I even attempt to go fast. I made a video on this, and again, I know it sounds repetitive. Take it slow, pay attention to your notes, and when you feel comfortable, and then you go speed up and use a metronome. Line up those accents, all right, and those subdivisions. All right, next one. What are the biggest mistakes or myths when learning to play guitar? Everybody's got something here.
Oh man, that's a tough one. There's a
Playing
lot
too
to
fast.
Talk to. Yeah. I think definitely just with any skill, like for me, one of the big problems I had was expecting myself to be able to do something before I was ready to do it.
Yeah.
And so I would skip steps, or I would take on things that were just too challenging for me at the time. And then I would get frustrated, and it would kind of hurt my experience learning the instrument. And I think if you are able to really trust that you're going to get there and be patient, and find things that really excite you at the moment that you can latch onto that fit with where you are in your journey, and know that it's a journey and that things are going to just take time. And there's, the more time that you have ahead of you, it might seem daunting, but it's the more things you can get excited about once you reach them. So, as you start to learn and you develop more things, it's great because it gives you more freedom, but then there's less things to discover. So it's kind of a trade-off. So you're in a good position to have a lot of great things ahead of you. So take it easy on yourself and be patient if you can.
Yeah. Well, finding that excitement is like the biggest thing, because then you have the motivation to actually go slow and like realize the end product.
What was the biggest mistake you did when you were first learning how to play?
Taking on too big of a project
Oh,
for my skill level.
Yeah, just like what Taylor said, it's the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's the same for me too. That's one of the biggest beginner mistakes people make. One, almost always they play way too fast for what they're capable of, and their goals at that time don't necessarily match up with what they can do. I think it's important to recognize limitations. And if you do, then you can work to bust those limitations, right? Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is when you're learning something difficult for you and you try to force it and it's not working. It's probably because there's a step that you skipped.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody can play, well, I should probably rephrase that. Even the greats have passed where you are passing right now. And the only difference is they know which areas to target. And they built a good foundation. It's just like the string sipping thing. Don't do that unless you have a good foundation. As with any skill, right? And also one of the biggest myths that I heard growing up, when everybody found out that I started playing guitar, everybody was telling me, oh, I tried it too, but the guitar didn't like me. And that's why I can't play well. Maybe it'll like you.
Yeah.
That's a myth.
Yeah.
As with any skill, you can learn it, you can improve on it, I don't think finger size or length has anything to do with it. I mean, Michael Romeo from Symphony X, very short fingers, but he plays like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's an excuse.
Yeah.
something to add to that. I think one of the words that is always tough, especially when you're looking at a skill, is the word talent. And I think there's a lot of people that really lean into this idea that like, oh, there's people that can do this and then there's people that can't. And the reality is that everything just takes time and you build a skill. And I think some people tend to get certain things quicker and maybe certain things that people find more appealing. And so they give that more value. But I think it's really, people just start at different points. You may be better at something starting out than someone else and just not realize it, or not, and that's okay. And it just takes time to build a skill, and that's really what it's about. It's not about where you start, it's about how you move through it and all that you have to learn as you go. Yeah.
I think the guitar doesn't like me mindset might also come from that many people start with acoustic guitar with hard steel strings.
Absolutely.
Acoustic guitars are extremely rough on the hands, especially when you're starting out. So if first time playing, it's gonna hurt, and you have to keep playing for like a week or two to get the calluses on your hands. So yeah, it's a commitment.
Absolutely right. Absolutely amazing points, guys. Next question is, what are some good intermediate / beginner songs? I guess that's for all three of us.
Ooh, songs that I felt were great for me, and I guess this is more like my personal experience. I got really into Green Day when I was in middle school, and that was a huge, fifth grade into middle school. And learning how to play power chords opened up such a whole world of possibility. And that's, basically kind of a bit of a step to the next level in my mind, because it just opens up so much freedom to learn things, and learn things a lot easier than kind of some of the other stages, I think, in your journey and your growth. So I'd say something like that, like some kind of fun rock songs, if that's what you're into, that use simple chords. It's just a great place to try and get to, so that you can learn a lot and learn what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, it's find songs that you like, and most likely you can play them with power chords, and you're gonna feel great. On the classical side, there's just a bunch of very minimal classical songs. They're just a melody and a bass line, like the Ode to Joy that I actually played in one of the videos. There's a bunch of those. There's this wonderful resource on the internet called the Classical Guitar Shed, and they have this PDF of 30 easy beginner classical songs that have Beethoven, Mozart, some of the classics. So it's great.
We probably have some equivalent of that in the popular guitar space thing, right? There's because you have resources on classical. Hey, this is an intermediate beginner list. That probably exists online for the rock pop people, right?
And in Guitar Center.
and Guitar Center, absolutely. So again, we're the same, Taylor and I. I mean, when I was coming up, trying to hone my skills in guitar, I wanted to play the radio songs, and one of those bands it's like Green Day. Yeah. Green Day, man. My big three at that time, it was Green Day, Incubus, and Linkin Park. So today, I'm very much into progressive metal, but I still find myself coming back to those guys, a lot. Because sure, technically it's simpler, theoretically it's simpler, but they just make good songs, dude. They're examples of what you can do with basic skills. They've been killing it, man.
I'm gonna add something to that. I think another thing that maybe falls in the guitar myth camp is, or just anything, is that basic equals not as good, which definitely isn't true. It takes a lot to make something simple really work or have weight to it. And the people that do that, either through trial and error or really precise knowledge of music, they're putting another skill to work. So it's not something that you should feel oh, if I can't do this crazy thing, I'm not a good musician, because it's a different skill. It really is something else that we're focusing on.
yeah, if you noticed in a lot of my beginner to intermediate videos, a lot of the examples that I use are Green Day songs. That's why, because I grew up with these guys. All right, if you guys are done, I can move on to the next question.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Eric asked this question: can you guys teach how to play Wonderwall? I mean, yeah.
Start with the
It's
rhythm.
blacklisted. We don't talk about that song. No, yeah, absolutely.
Coming up.
I think Elias can play it fingerstyle too.
Yeah,
It'll
sure.
make me cry because it's gonna be
Sure.
so beautiful.
I'll
I
make an
swear to God.
arrangement. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna make an arrangement just for you, Eric. All right, we can go to the next question if you can pull it up. He has all the questions. Sorry, guys. Oh, here's a production question. Somebody asks, what DAW do you recommend learning first?
Yeah, so for anyone who's not familiar with DAW, it stands for Digital Audio Workstation. So it's basically your recording software that you use on your computer. There's a lot of different ones out there. Some of the most popular you might have heard of. Pro Tools is still considered kind of the industry standard, but is more geared towards the recording and engineering world and maybe a little less towards the music production world. Logic is great for Mac users. It's the cheapest to get into, and it has the most features for your money. But it does come with some kind of hiccups and things to learn and get around. Ableton is my preferred one just because it's a lot more free and creative as far as like what you can do with it, especially in the music production side. You can't really go wrong. I mainly teach just Logic and Ableton because I think those are kind of the two that are the most well-rounded for people. But it really kind of depends on what you want to do, and you can't really go wrong. Once you learn one, it's easier to learn other ones too, so don't be too worried.
I kind of actually want to add to that. I'm mainly a Logic user, but really once you learn any DAW, really, you kind of get familiar with the workflow and what you need, what the processes are. So a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, just, some time ago, I used to record in the studio, and they're using Pro Tools, all right? And then good buddy says, hey, I want you to record this project. You don't have your setup? Okay, just use the Pro Tools. And I'm like, crap. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that, because I knew what I needed to do. Yeah. I knew what the steps were. I just needed to know where in the software I press it, what hotkeys should I use, and I Googled it, and it was fine. Yeah. So really, any DAW, you'll be fine. Next question.
GarageBand. What about GarageBand?
Didn't we have that? We were forced to learn it in Berkeley. Did you guys get MTech? Yes.
I didn't, but I grew up messing around with GarageBand, and I kind of think maybe that's why I kind of slowly started to gravitate back towards music production, audio engineering. The best thing about GarageBand is if you have an Apple device, even if it's a phone or iPad, you have it, and it's great. You can't do as much as you can with Logic Pro, thus the Pro part, but it's such a good place to start messing around, and a lot of those features in there are very similar to what you would encounter in Logic, and there's even a mode in Logic when you start that kind of mirrors GarageBand, so users can migrate really easily from something they're used to. So it's just a great thing to play around with. Definitely take advantage of it because it's awesome.
So you took MTech, right?
Yep.
But you didn't. So do you remember being forced to make projects on GarageBand?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Then we used that one DAW that had like the rack system. Do you remember that?
Reason?
Yeah, Reason. Yeah.
We used to say there's no reason to use Reason. But I never used it ever since. I deleted it yesterday, actually. Yeah, all right, next question. Steel or nylon strings? I feel like this is you, buddy.
No, yeah, sure. I mean, that really depends on what kind of music do you want to play, or what kind of sound do you prefer, actually, because the steel strings acoustic has more of a harsher tone, more of the country style, bright tone, and then the nylon strings is usually more darker, a little bit warmer. Yeah, but it really depends on what kind of music do you want to play. Yeah.
What did you start with?
I started with steel string on acoustic, and it's definitely harder just because acoustic guitars tend to have higher tension and thicker strings, and that's really what you kind of feel in your fingers, is having to put that pressure down to fret the note. I think a lot of people think acoustics easier to get into because you have just the instrument. You don't have to have an amp. You don't have to get a cable with electric guitar. There are different gauges of strings for acoustic, so you can get a lighter gauge string that will be a little bit easier on your fingers. There's one string, I forget what it's called. I think Diodario makes it, and it's kind of like a halfway between like a warmer sound akin to like a nylon and a steel string sound, and that tends to be an even lighter gauge. And I think a lot of people might like that to start with because it is a little bit easier on your fingers, but that finger kind of pain thing is temporary. It will go away. It's hard. It's not fun, but it's not something you're going to have to deal with for too long if you just keep at it. So it will get better, thankfully.
My first guitar actually was a classical guitar. But at 13 years old, I was so small that I couldn't play a full-size classical. So my dad got me one of those three-quarter size one, you know?
Yeah, I have one of those too.
Yeah, you have one? Yeah, I still have it. It's in my parents' house. So I started with, thankfully, classical nylon strings. And when I just stopped doing the classical lessons, I played all my pop songs, rock songs there, chords, you know? So it wasn't as hard. It still hurt because it's still like strings pressing onto your skin. And then I skipped the acoustic guitar. I saved up money, so I bought my own Strat copy. This was like 2005 or something. I was so proud that I played that thing with my cousin until literally my fingers bled. Literally. And then after that, it just stopped hurting, man. I just embraced the pain because it was way too much fun. So there you go. All right. Somebody asked, I want to play funk guitar. Do I absolutely need a single coil guitar?
That's a great question. So short answer, no. And let me explain kind of what a single coil is. Single coil pickups are going to look like this. They have the single bobbin. They have the pull pieces, and they have wire wrapped around them. They're basically just an electromagnet. Not that that's really important. But anyway, so this is usually what you see on more of a Strat style guitar, which is kind of more of a preference for funk playing. You see a lot of players with Strats. These guys, which have the two of them together, are humbuckers, and you see that more in like rock. They tend to be higher output, so they tend to push your amp a bit more, give you more of a distorted sound, which in this case is what you're looking for. For funk playing, the nice thing about single coils in the Strat setup is there's a position called position 2 on the switch, which basically, this is getting so long-winded. It's going to be here, which basically gives you a bit of a like quacky kind of sound, which a lot of funk players like. So it's kind of become like part of the language. It's part of the sound of funk, is that position on the guitar with single coils. But that doesn't mean you can't still get kind of a funk sound with a humbucker. There's a couple things you could do that are guitar and amp settings that will help kind of give you more of that sound and that kind of vibe without it being a single coil. So it's definitely not necessary. It's not going to change your technique at all. You're not going to go from one guitar to another and then all of a sudden, how do I do this? How do I get those sounds? It's all going to transfer. So it's not something you really need to worry about.
Do you think string gauge matters for funk? Because I know there's a lot of string muting.
Ooh, that's a great question.
11s.
I think string size matters less and pick diameter or thickness matters more. I don't think you have to be. Typically, a thinner pick is going to give you more of that pick sound, and that's more what you're looking for in a funk setting. But I think what is most important is just kind of how you're holding the pick and kind of your right hand technique. So I don't think it's necessary. You may like it better than like heavy strings, heavy pick. But I don't think there's like any real rule of thumb. It just kind of depends on what you want at the end of the day.
Awesome. Here's another production question for you. Do I need to purchase a lot of plugins to get good at production?
Thankfully, no. Pretty much every DAW comes with all the different plugin processors that you need to get started. I can't think of anyone that doesn't, which is really nice. When you go and get third-party plugins, usually they're either trying to emulate a piece of hardware really specifically, do a really specific thing, or have a really specific character that you're after. But you basically have all those tools out of the toolbox right when you get into your DAW. Some DAWs have more than others. Logic has great stock plugins and has everything you really need. Ableton gives you a bit more depending on the version you get. Something that is more expensive like Ableton Standard or Suite, then you get a ton of stuff that's like instruments and all sorts of things that you can do processing wise that are kind of like unique to Ableton that are really cool, but absolutely not necessary to get started. And you can find free versions of a lot of stuff too. So there's a lot of options.
How do you actually record yourself when you're playing classical? Because not a lot of classical guitars have pickups.
Yeah. Usually with the mic, I have a Zoom, like one of those cheap Zoom ones. I like to use that a lot. The sound quality is pretty good if you have a treated room. Mics mostly. I have a small piezo pickup in my classical that really helps. I mean, the sound isn't the best. It's kind of thin, but it really helps when you can't mic up.
So good mics.
Yeah.
You need good. Yeah, I mean, with any acoustic instrument, you need good mics.
Yeah.
So
Or a 57
or
for everything.
that.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, that. You can never have too much 57s.
No.
That's true though.
Yeah.
That's true. And they're also built like a tank.
Yeah.
It's also a good inflation indicator, because they've been constant, and I think the price rose slightly, and everybody in the production world just lost their minds.
Yeah.
It's like the economy is crashing. The
$100
SM57 has increased its price. So, or something like that. I'm not sure.
Don't invest in crypto, invest in 57s.
Most stable commodity. Welcome to Off the Scale Economy section.
Don't take any financial advice as gospel. We are not liable.
We are not. I mean, we're musicians. We ain't got no money. All right. Okay, Elias, this is for you. Somebody asked, how do I get better at sight reading?
The age-old question of sight reading. That's a big thing at Berkeley, at least. Find it to just bunch of stuff. So everything you sight read is new, because that's the whole point. Then just practice going slow. The most important thing is looking forward and like learning how to look forward in the music instead of just where you're playing, because especially when you're having to play with the metronome with sight reading, you can't keep up if you're just on the notes, on the beats. So you have to learn how to look forward, and that comes with practice. You just go extremely slow, like metronome at 30, and you looking at one note ahead, and you remember to play the previous note and just look one note ahead, and just that's it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the going slow, and I think we're all in agreement.
Just don't go slow, go painfully slow.
Painfully slow. One of the things I did for actually auditions for music school was worked on sight reading for quite a while, and what I ended up doing is I worked through the entirety of a songbook, so the real book in my case, and what I would do is in that book they have written notation for the melody on a staff, and then they have chord symbols. And what I would do is I would take my metronome and I would break up the chords and the melody. So I would see how fast could I sight read the chords at a pace that was comfortable, that was like, you kind of want somewhere that's slow enough you can do it, and then kind of reach that threshold where it's like you're pushing yourself ever so slightly, just so that you're kind of like building that momentum and that skill, and being like, oh, I have to look ahead a little more, or like, oh, I have to remember, where I'm coming from or where the song's going, and you start to learn kind of what to read ahead for. And I basically would just, in my book with a pencil, date, this is a bit, more intense because I was preparing for something, but I would like date, the day, and be like, quarter note on my metronome was at this for chords, quarter note was this for melody. And I just kept doing that. And eventually I got faster, and realized there were certain songs that I struggled more with, certain songs I was faster at, and certain different notation figures, like rhythmic figures, that would catch me and hang me up, and so I could work on those separately. So there's a lot of things where you just kind of work through it slowly, and eventually, just with anything, you go slow, and then you can go faster and faster as you practice it with any skill. So yeah.
So in summary, go slow.
Yeah.
See, these guys, they get me. Go slow. These guys. Yeah. Next one. Do you need to go to music school to be a pro? Ooh, loaded. All three of us. Do you want to go first?
Not really. If you're an extreme beginner coming from no music, I mean, it helps because then you learn the theory and somebody's teaching you. It's, of course, easier than researching stuff on your own, but it's not necessary at all. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd second that. I think the biggest issue with learning on your own, and this comes from years of being self-taught, is just knowing what to focus on. There's so much material out there, and so part of why we do this and why we want to help you all is to give you some really clear steps, so you're not like going on there and just like, not even trying to find a good resource for the thing you want to learn, but knowing what to learn next and what to learn next after that, because building that skill and going slowly and not missing steps really helps you in the long run. For that, music school's great. They figure out where you're at, and they take you through that process from beginning to end. So that's pretty hard to put a price on, but it's a lot of commitment, it's a lot of time, and unfortunately it's a lot of money to go to college for music. It just really depends on what you want. There's so many musicians out there who are self-taught, who are incredible musicians. There's so many people out there who play professionally, who never went to music school, who don't know how to sight read, who don't know music theory, but have put work into their skill. They've trained their ears. They spent time on a stage. They've learned from others. So it's just different approaches to the same kind of journey.
Both your points are interesting, because I wanted to say that a lot of my influences didn't even graduate high school, but then they became these like worldwide, internationally known acts, like Alexi Laiho from Bodum, your countryman.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. He dropped out of high school. He was my biggest influence in high school. So my dad was like, maybe that's not the best influence, because I want you to graduate. I graduated high school. No, but the point is, if you're good and you know kind of like what your market is, and you can execute live well, then you probably don't need it. But I went to music school because I was in love with music. I was in love with guitar. It's not just, being in love with the idea of playing guitar. I just wanted to eat, live, breathe everything music and guitar. And that's why I went to music school. And I kind of want to be pros in it. And it's interesting that you're saying you have all this information online. Why would we take lessons? It's because, again, I think becoming good in music, not just guitar, but just music, involves a lot of sequential steps. There's a lot of info, yes, but do you know which ones are the most useful for where you're at now? And which ones do you need to get to that next step? And that's why we're here. We're here to guide you.
I'm going to add something in there too. Another thing I think working with a teacher that's so great is that they can recognize and diagnose problems before they become habits that you don't want. So for me, there's a lot of skills that I went and learned on my own And I built these habits because I didn't get a full picture of what's going on, or I didn't know what are the things that I really need to look out for, because there was just so much information. And different people have different styles, different people do things differently, different people explain things differently, teach things differently. So there's a lot of things where working with someone who really gets you and how you learn can really help avoid some of those problems and help you just have an easier road where you don't have to backtrack as much, which is really nice from experience.
Elias, did you have a teacher like that growing up?
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much only had one classical guitar teacher in Finland for over like 10 years. He was great. But yeah, it's not getting bad habits is like
That's the biggest
essential.
thing, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to build good technique rather than unlearn,
Yeah.
unlearning a bad habit and trying to build something new on top of it. It takes way more time and more effort. So that's why education is sometimes important. But hey, man, if you know what you're doing, then you don't need it. The short answer is no, you don't need to go to music school to be a pro, but there's a lot of benefits. I know I'm speaking for myself after we graduated from Berkeley. Like, I'm at least 100 times better than when I started.
Yeah.
So it was worth it for me.
Yeah.
Next question?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How do I know which gear I need to record myself? Ooh, that's for you.
Production man.
Production questions. I think anytime you're dealing with a computer, is going to be the biggest thing. If you just want to record yourself just to hear yourself, that's like a separate kind of matter. But anytime you're using a DAW, you are going to need something called an audio interface. And basically what that does is it takes my voice through this microphone, which is in the world, and puts it into ones and zeros and sticks it into something my computer can understand. And then my computer can pick that message and put it through it again and gets it out of the speaker. So that was a little bit of a butchered way of putting it, but that's the basic idea. So that's like the center of your studio. Besides your computer, your interface is like second importance. It's the thing that gets things in and out. It is the thing that ferries your people across the river to audio land. So that's really the most important piece. Luckily, there's tons of them out there. There's much more affordable ones. There's really expensive ones. They all do the same thing. They just do it at different levels of quality. You can get a cheap interface and make great music. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Basically, the next step is like, what do you want to record? They will take guitar inputs. So if you want to get your guitar into your computer and use software for your guitar, you can do that with any interface pretty much. They're all going to be set up for that, even the cheap ones. And then microphones. We're actually going in an interface right now, and it's taking these microphones and recording it to the computer. So microphones are another way. If you have your voice or acoustic sources like instruments, or you want to put a mic on a guitar amp and get that real world amp into your computer and record that, that's the way to go. So those are really the two things, or three things: computer, interface, and then either something to put into it or a mic to capture something in the world.
I have a follow-up question, Taylor. What's a good starting mic?
That's a great question. I'd say the tried and true, the SM58, especially for... Oh, no.
Are you actually a production guy?
Well, 58 is also good.
So for vocals, I recommend 58s, just because they have basically what this guy's got going on the inside, which is a bit of shielding and a bit of a like a windscreen almost to them. So it keeps things a little bit cleaner when you're dealing with vocals. Less pops and clicks and stuff, although you still might get some. But for instruments, the 57 is kind of the go-to. It's awesome. You can't go wrong. Their price is pretty fixed. There are cheaper versions of like the 58, like the PGA series, which is about, I think, half the price. Some of them go down. I think there's a 48 that is also cheaper. Those are great. They're really easy to deal with. There's different styles of mics. These are dynamic mics, which doesn't isn't something you really need to worry about to start, but dynamic is really easy. You can't really do something bad to them. They're pretty bulletproof, and they're just great on everything. I'd say that's always the place I would recommend starting, unless you want like a really like pop focused vocal or something with a lot of detail. Then a cheap condenser mic can get you there, and that's something that we can help you figure out too. Is gear recommendations.
Awesome. SM57. Can't go wrong.
Yep.
Next question. Similar to what you've answered earlier. Hey, beginner classical guitarist here. What pieces should I learn first? I guess you're being asked to like name pieces.
Sure. I mean, Ode to Joy, for Elise, a lot of Mozart pieces. I can't really remember the name. Like, they're the K numbers. I can't remember. Snowflight by Andrew York is really nice. Yeah, I can't really remember.
Any Bach?
Bach has a big range, so there's a bunch of Bach that is easy for beginners, like Minuet in G is really nice.
I played that in my classical lessons as like a teenager.
Yeah. But then there's
PTSD. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Then there's the Bach that's like on the highest level. It's impossible. So
yeah.
Like all the composers have stuff like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's the same with pop artists or like rock artists, especially like
Dream Theater.
Well,
all of them are hard.
It's all hard.
It's all hard. Yeah.
No, but like there's a lot of artists with like easy songs and hard songs. I guess it just matters when you're trying to convey something that kind of needs a degree of, I don't know, virtuosity. Should I say it like that? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. Anyway, next question. My fingers hurt. What should I do? It's for all of us, man. Slow down.
Practice more.
Unfortunately, it's one of those literal growing pains of learning guitar. It's just something that everyone has to go through. Definitely don't push yourself to the point where you're like really in pain. Like, take breaks, be kind to yourself, listen to your body. But know that it's something that's temporary. Your fingers are going to develop and you're going to get better and easier to kind of manage that sensation, and it does go away. And then you're just set, and then you don't have to deal with it basically. But yeah, it's not the easiest. You can try lighter string gauges, which have less tension, so they're a little easier to push down on. If you go really light, you might need to have your guitar set up. That's the only thing. Yeah, that's true. That's something that we can also help you with, or at least also give recommendations on how to make things easier too. But yeah, I'd say there's options, and stick with it. Don't let that be the deterrent, because you will get through that, and there are ways to make it a little easier on yourself too.
The guitar doesn't like you. I'm kidding. You gotta get used to it. Yeah. All right, so don't let that discourage you. Next one. Last one, actually. Oh, this is like a general question. Mm-hmm. How do I clean up my playing in general? Slow down.
Slow down.
Use a metronome. Accents.
If you're worried about your technique, take a little lesson with some of the people that know how to play the guitar, like us.
That's fair. That's a good point. Yeah, and again, I think having someone there that can help you build really good habits and problem solve with you and be like, here's the thing I'm struggling with, what's going on, and then we can hopefully just like, oh, I know, I've been there, I remember this, or like, that was hard for me, or I think this is what's going on. Because it could be something that you just haven't thought of and haven't thought about looking for the answer for, with the massive information that's out there.
If something other than your fingers hurt, then you should seek for advice.
Seek medical help. Call your physician and be like, what's wrong with me? No. But yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefit to working with someone who's been in your shoes and can, help you figure out what's next and empathize with where you are, so that you hopefully stay encouraged and you don't get discouraged and put down the instrument before you've really discovered what it could be to you.
I have a bonus round for us.
Yeah.
Name me your top 3 influences. They could be guitarists, they could be bands. Taylor's dying. Elias, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time before I really committed to classical was actually Dream Theater. I had a big Dream Theater phase, and I got the Music Man guitar and that kind of stuff. And then a lot of prog rock. But then in the classical world, I mean, in the classical world, it's less about the artists and more about the composers. But I really like the Baroque stuff, like Bach especially, and then more contemporary composers like damn, I'm blanking. But anyway, usually all the dead people have good music in the classical world.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think for me, I'd probably go like by what were the biggest influences that caused me to like shift in my like path as a guitarist. I think first Eric Clapton was huge for me starting out, and that DVD, and I was like, oh, like what's this? That was huge. Jimi Hendrix, definitely. You can't like, just so influential, so amazing, just totally changed what electric guitar could be and like what you could get out of that instrument. So those are like some early ones for me. I mean, Green Day, like with Andy, like that was such a like that opened my mind to such a new world of music at just the right time in my life. What got me into metal was really Slipknot. In middle school, my friends were like, check this out. I'm like, what is this? And I'm just like, this sounds wild. They're like, I love it, but I don't know why. So that was a big thing for me there. And then Michael Hedges for the acoustic side, he pushed me into percussive fingerstyle playing because my dad had a record of his that we would listen to, and it just was so cool and so unique. For jazz, what pushed me into jazz was Julian Lodge, actually former Berkeley. Plays a telly and is a crazy bluegrass player too. And he played jazz like no one I'd ever heard. He brought this character to it and this kind of personality and sensitivity to guitar playing in the jazz world that I hadn't heard yet. And I was like, this is amazing. I actually didn't know who he was before I actually went to a clinic he did at my community college, and I walked in and I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And then I walked out and I'm like, how have I never known who this person is before now? So that was a big shift for me. And then I was like, I got to get serious about music. Like I want to do the college music thing. Some other ones for me, Periphery, for music production as well as guitar and metal influence has been huge. Music production, a lot of people in the EDM world have been huge. Virtual Riot is an incredible sound designer. This guy Nasco does some really wild stuff in the like color bass kind of world. And I love like industrial music. So like Mick Gordon is like the nexus, like the perfect marriage for me of like metal and EDM that kind of started me on that journey of like, who else is doing this kind of music? Like, what is this? So there's a lot of those just pivotal moments where it's just like someone came at the right time and all of a sudden I just pivot into something new and exciting, and chasing that excitement and that discovery of musicians is really what kept me motivated and still does.
When I was a beginner to intermediate player, what really changed me was Steve Vai. That's like I said, that's how I knew I wanted to be a professional, because I've never seen anything like that. So as you can see, big Steve Vai fan. I have another
If
white
it's
one.
in the frame.
Yeah, it's not in the frame, but that's a gem. I have another one from my intermediate videos that you guys all know about. Second one is John Petrucci. Na na na. Sometimes you see this guy in my advanced video, sometimes not. And then the last one is Yngwie Malmsteen. I don't actually own a Strat, so I don't have that. One day. Yngwie was such a huge influence because when I saw that's how I got introduced to neoclassical. Is my cousin showed me, and I was like, what's happening here? I like this. I don't know why, but yeah, I like it. As far as bands go, my number one influence is Dream Theater. Like, I mean, when I met him, he was playing an 8-string Strandberg, guys. He's not that sophisticated. No, I'm kidding.
Not that far off.
No. He was fun. It was fun. Yeah, one of us, exactly. So yeah, Dream Theater is number one. Number two, close second for me is Opeth. It's like progressive death metal, little heavier, I'd say, than Dream Theater, but I like that too. I like extreme metal. Number three, Symphony X. It's kind of like Dream Theater, but neoclassical. Better singer. Sorry. I don't have the Michael Romeo signature guitar yet. One day. Yeah, those are my influences, man. Yeah. So I guess we're out of questions for this time. Thank you for coming today, guys. It's been a pleasure doing this video. And if you have any questions, just hit us up. Maybe we'll do another video like this as long as he's in town.
Hopefully.
All right, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, come on.